Life on Earth, Ecosystems and Distribution of Organisms. One of the things about the Life on Earth topic is that there are a few new words you have to learn, and there are a few of them in this table here, so let's go through them one by one. Biodiversity just means the range of living things. Bio means living, diversity means the range of things there are. It could be in a particular place, or it could be in the whole world. Habitat is just a place. So it could be a forest, it could be a desert, it could be a loch. It's just the place where the things live. We call it a habitat. Population is the number of one particular species that you find in an area. So it could be the number of sparrows, it could be the number of mice, it could be the number of oak trees. It's one particular thing, which makes it different from the next one. Community, on the other hand, means all of the things that live in an area. And sometimes people get this a wee bit mixed up with population, but population is the number of one species. Community is everything that lives in a place. So all the trees, all the birds, all the creepy crawlies, everything that lives in a place is the community. And sometimes people wonder about how to describe an ecosystem. It really couldn't be simpler. It's the place and everything that lives in it. So the easy way to say that in a biology answer is ecosystem is the habitat and the community that lives there. That's all you have to say. Niche is not a place, it's not a thing, it's the role that something plays in an ecosystem. So something could be a large predator, or it could be a large herbivore, or it could be a decomposer that makes things rot away. So it's the role that something plays. And all over the world you get different animals filling the same roles. So if you were to go to the Scottish Highlands, you would find that the big herbivore was the deer. They eat the grass and the moss and the trees. If you went somewhere like Africa, you might find that it was the zebra. Does the same task, fills the same role, but it's just a different animal. And we call the role that they play a niche. Like it says, competition happens when two or more organisms need something that's in limited supply. So there could only be so much food or so much water or so much space. Two or more things want it, they have to compete for it. For plants, it would also include things like light. And that's why you don't see a lot of small plants growing under a wood, because the trees have their leaves higher up and they're able to outcompete the smaller plants for the light, so the small plants can't grow. And there are two types of competition. Interspecific is between two different species. They might have some things that they both need. For example, you might have two big herbivores that both need to eat the grass, but maybe they like different types of grass sometimes, so they're not eating exactly the same sort of thing. On the other hand, you get intraspecific, which is in one species. This is a much more intense kind of competition because animals of the same species have identical needs. They need the exact same types of food, they need things at the same times of year. So intraspecific is more intense because the same species has the same needs. You don't find the same sort of plants and animals all over the world. Some of them might be adapted for a warm climate, some for a cold climate, some might be adapted for living in the sea, others are adapted for living on the land. And there are two types of factor that can affect this distribution. There are living factors and non-living factors. Living factors are biotic, like biology, the study of life. And they would be things like food availability. If there's no food, something can't live in a place. Predators, if there's too many predators, then they'll eat all of a species and there won't have left. Also the incidence of disease. So a disease could kill off all the plants and animals in an area and they wouldn't be able to survive there anymore. Non-living factors are called abiotic, and that would include things like the temperature, water availability, pH, or light intensity. And if you're given this as an answer to a question, you have to remember to put in water availability, not just water, and light intensity, not just light. It's not that big a deal, you just have to get it right. So as you probably knew, temperature is measured with a thermometer. The thing you want to watch out for though is you keep the thermometer in whatever you're measuring. So if you're measuring water temperature, don't lift it out and look at the scale because you're then measuring the air temperature and that's not what we're trying to do. Light intensity is measured with the cunningly named light meter, and the thing you have to be careful with this is to not let your shadow fall on it because you're no longer measuring the light intensity you want, you're now measuring how dark your shadow is, and that's not what we're all about here. Moisture and pH are measured with moisture and pH meters. It's usually the same thing, there's just a wee switch in the front and you move from one side to the other. Now the thing to remember with these is you give the probe a wee wipe before you actually use it, because if you don't do that, you're measuring your previous sample again, because there could be some soil stuck to it. So give them a wee wipe before you actually use them. Nobody, not even me, knows all the types of plants and animals there are. So if I want to find out what they are, I use a thing called a key. Get wee books of them, and you can go out, if you're out for a walk in the Highlands, you can check out what kind of trees there are. Now there's two types of keys. There's branching keys or paired statement, but they're really quite similar. What happens is at every step you get a choice and you pick one of two options. It's only going to be two. And eventually you get to identify the plant or animal you found. Let's start with the first one on the left. Body one colour or body patches of black and white and brown? I'd say his body is mostly black. So we go to number 2. 2. Body golden coloured or body mostly black? I think that first dog's mostly black all over, so we go to number 3. Is his face one colour or does he have a white patch under his nose? Face is all one colour, so he's a sprudel. That's a cross between a Springer Spaniel and a poodle. Next one. Body one colour? I don't think so. Body patches of black and white and brown? Yeah, so the second one's a Jack Russell. Third one. Body one colour? Yes it is. Go to number 2. Golden coloured? Yeah, she is. So that's a Goldador. That's a golden retriever crossed with a Labrador. And this last wee chap on the right here, body is one colour. It's hard to see, but it is. So we go to number 2. Golden coloured? I wouldn't have said so. No, he's mostly black. So we go to number 3. Face all one colour? No, he's got a white patch under the nose. So that wee one on the right there is a mini schnauzer. And we've identified those dogs, even if we didn't know what they were. We just go through the key a step at a time and we can find out what kind of dogs they are. This is a pie chart. They're really good for showing how much there is of one thing compared to all others. So in this case we can find out that half of the people like lentil, about a quarter like tomato and the other quarter like minestrone. How do you draw the pie chart though? Well, usually what you get in the test is you'll get a circle with some wee marks around the side. And what you need to do is count up how many things there were. So 10, 5 and 5, that's 20. And you look at how many wee tick marks around and it's going to be something that works out nice and evenly. So what you might find in this case was maybe there are 20 tick marks, or maybe 10. Well, let's go with 20. So if there's 20 tick marks, that means each tick mark is worth 1. Because it's 20 things and 20 tick marks. So we count around 10 tick marks and we draw a line from the centre to the edge for the lentil one. And we count around 5 more and we draw a line from the centre for minestrone. And because there's only 3 things, the last one that's left must be tomato. Now, if you're struggling with this, if you're struggling to count the number of tick marks and the things, one of the things to remember is you usually get 2 marks for them. And it's 1 mark for drawing the size of the wedges and the other mark for labelling it. So even if you're struggling with the size of the wedges, do the right number of wedges and label them properly and you'll get half of the marks just for that.